I was in the midst of a deeply personal moment, shaving my head completely bald, a tangible gesture of solidarity for my daughter's arduous cancer journey. She had been inconsolable, shedding tears about feeling utterly alone as a girl without hair, and my plan was to surprise her, to show her she wasn't alone in this. The stylist had just begun taking huge, deliberate chunks out of my hair when my phone buzzed with an incoming text from my boyfriend, Damon. My heart, already heavy with emotion, sank further as I read his words. My cousin's wedding is next week and you're my plus one, so you better not show up looking like a bald freak. You're already lucky I'm not breaking up with you over this. Make sure you get a good wig. I stared at my phone, the words swimming before my eyes, utterly shocked. Before I could even process the sheer cruelty, the tears began to well up, blurring Damon's callous message, then spilling down my cheeks. The stylist, Maria, a kind-faced woman whose clippers had been humming moments before, immediately halted their buzzing. She saw my face crumple, a mask of shock and heartbreak, and gently asked what was wrong. I couldn't even articulate the words. My hand, trembling, simply turned my phone toward her. Her expression, which had been one of sweet, professional concern, transformed in an instant to absolute, incandescent rage. Girls, she announced, her voice cutting through the soft hum of the salon. We have a situation. Every single woman in that salon, from the busy stylists to the clients relaxing under dryers, flipped their heads around. The lady getting highlights, her hair sectioned with foils, even yanked them out of her way to lean over, eyes wide with curiosity and concern. Within seconds, I was enveloped, a circle of curious, then increasingly furious, faces. Wait, an older woman, her voice thick with disbelief, interjected after I managed to stammer out the gist of everything. What? That's when Maria, her eyes still burning with indignation, turned to me. Listen, gorgeous, she said, her voice surprisingly steady. Text him back. Just say you'll look beautiful at the wedding. Nothing else. I just thought of something that's so slay. Everyone watched, a palpable tension filling the air, as I typed with fingers that still shook slightly. Don't worry, I'll look beautiful at the wedding. His response was instantaneous. A testament to his self-absorption. Good. Make sure the wig looks natural. Don't embarrass me. The silence that followed was deafening. A thick, heavy blanket of collective disbelief. Then, as if a dam had broken, everyone started talking at once. Oh, he thinks you're getting a wig. He has no idea what's coming. This is going to be beautiful. The woman getting extensions, her voice buzzing with excitement, declared, my best friend is a makeup artist. She cleared her whole day. The nail tech, not to be outdone, jumped in. My sister does event photography. She'd be there as a guest with her camera, purely by coincidence. Of course, the college girl getting bangs was already glued to her phone, tapping furiously. My mom owns the jewelry boutique on 5th. You're getting the works of full arsenal of sparkle. Maria, with renewed determination, continued shaving my head. You're so strong, gorgeous. That piece of trash is going to get it, she kept saying, her words a soothing balm. Another stylist brought over special oils. Their scent a fragrant promise. This will make your skin absolutely glow, like moonlight on silk, emphasizing those incredible features. I remember starting to tear up again. But these were tears of genuine eye and overwhelming gratitude at how all these women were just gathering around me. A spontaneous, fierce sisterhood forming in the most unexpected place. Listen, shouted the woman getting the Brazilian, her voice echoing from the back. Someone better record his face when he realizes you're not wearing a wig. I burst out laughing, a genuine, joyful sound that felt foreign after the earlier shock. And even as more and more hair disappeared off my head, transforming my appearance, all these women's words, their unwavering support, made me feel genuinely, profoundly beautiful. Because of them, when I finally got off the chair and checked myself out in the mirror, looking at my reflection with fresh eyes, I truly meant it when I said, I look hot AF. They all cheered for me, their collective energy a vibrant chorus, hyping me up beyond measure. And when I went to pay, they waved me off, telling me, it's on the house, honey. Consider it an investment in karma. Even better, they asked if I wanted to stay to discuss stuff, a conspiratorial glint in their eyes. Within minutes, the girls my new, fierce tribe were teaching me how to carry myself, how to project confidence that radiated from within. One of the stylists, a survivor of cancer herself, offered invaluable advice, demonstrating how to apply makeup that highlighted my features, particularly without hair. Cheekbones, honey, she kept repeating, her fingers tracing the contours of my face. You've got incredible cheekbones. Let them do all the talking. By the time I finally left, a flurry of phone numbers had been exchanged, a vibrant group chat formed, and plans coordinated with the precision and excitement of a high-stakes heist. The morning of the wedding unfolded like a dream crafted by these incredible women. A professional makeup artist, true to her word, transformed my face, enhancing my natural beauty. I wore borrowed pearls that shimmered with an elegant light, and a breathtakingly beautiful blue dress, one I could never have afforded, graciously lent to me by one of the girls. As I walked out, the stylist who had begun my transformation had tears in her eyes. He expects a wig, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. He's getting a warrior mama instead. I didn't see Damon again until the wedding itself, having spent the preceding days focused solely on my daughter, whose innocent eyes lit up when she said, Mama looks beautiful. But then, the wedding arrived. Damon was already in a corner, nursing a drink, when I made my entrance, a quiet confidence radiating from me. The moment he saw me, his eyes went wide, a flicker of shock, then something akin to pure fury, crossing his face. I could literally see his whole body tense, every muscle rigid, and he wouldn't even meet my gaze. When I came over, he didn't offer a kiss or a hug, not even a perfunctory greeting. He simply acted as if I were a complete stranger, an unwelcome ghost at his cousin's celebration. It should have bothered me, shouldn't it, to be treated with such disdain by the man who was supposed to be my partner. But the women at the salon had fortified me, had hyped me up way too much, to let an immature Monchiel's pathetic mood dim my hard-won shine. I stood there, feeling utterly, magnificently beautiful, despite his palpable contempt. And what's even better, a true testament to the power of shared female strength, is what the other women at that wedding said. One of the bridesmaids moaned, her eyes soft with empathy, found me amidst the mingling guests. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, reaching out to gently squeeze my arm. "I heard about your daughter. You're both warriors, aren't you?" The bride herself, radiant in her white gown, actually pulled me aside, away from the chatter. "I heard what you're doing for your little girl," she confided, her voice sincere. "That's true beauty. You're both amazing, truly inspiring." Even Damon's own mother, a cancer survivor herself, approached me, while Damon stood stiffly beside her, an unwilling participant. "You look so strong and beautiful," she told me, her eyes conveying genuine admiration. Throughout the evening, nearly every person who spoke to Damon, unaware of the animosity brewing beneath his forced smile, inquired about my daughter. "How's her treatment progressing?" they'd ask, innocent questions turning into potent weapons. "You must be so incredibly proud of your girlfriend's strength," they'd comment, unaware of the irony. "You're lucky to have someone so brave by your side." He was visibly seething, absolutely incandescent with rage, at everyone thinking I looked amazing, at everyone showering me with praise and admiration. He actually claimed food poisoning, an obvious, transparent excuse to retreat from the onslaught of compliments directed at me. I stayed though. I danced with strangers who, through the shared joy of the music and the warmth of their smiles, became new friends. But then, that night, my phone absolutely exploded. A relentless barrage of texts, laced with voice notes, started pouring in. "WTF was that? You embarrass me. You look disgusting, ugly, get a wig tomorrow, or we're done." I'm serious. The messages just kept coming, an unrelenting cascade of verbal abuse, each one harsher, more brutal, more venomous than the last. But I didn't even type a single word in response. Instead, with a calm resolve that surprised even me, I just screenshotted everything, capturing every cruel syllable. I opened my chat with his mother, and this is where the true horror unfurled. After the wedding, his texts, as predicted, turned vicious and cruel, a relentless assault on my dignity. When I forwarded his messages to his mother, who, with a profound understanding of my situation, was a cancer survivor herself, I had no idea the depth of his depravity. I had no idea he would retaliate by filing false CPS reports, by attempting to sever my daughter from me, trying to take her away through an act of baseless, malicious legal warfare. She had been chatting with his mom, Linda, and had meticulously forwarded every single message. Linda herself was a brave cancer survivor, her journey a testament to resilience, and I knew, with a gut-wrenching certainty, that the instant her eyes scanned those vile texts, Damon's meticulously crafted facade, his very existence as her son in any meaningful sense, would shatter. He was, undeniably, irrevocably, done for. The sharp, insistent ping of a new notification from Linda's phone must have sliced through the quiet morning, jolting her awake. Because within mere minutes, my own screen blared to life, her name flashing like a warning sign. I let it ring, the sound a discordant symphony in my quiet apartment, and watched it go to voicemail, a brief reprieve from the inevitable. But then came another call, and another, each one tightening the knot of dread in my stomach. By the fourth relentless ring, I knew escape was futile. I had to answer, to face the storm head-on. Her voice, when it finally crackled through the speaker, was not merely angry. It was a raw, primal roar, shaking with a fury so profound it vibrated through the phone and into my bones. She declared, without preamble, that she would be at my door first thing in the morning, and that a talk was non-negotiable. I tried to interject, to stammer out some weak protest about it being unnecessary, but the line went dead, severed by her abrupt, resolute hang-up. That night was a phantom of sleep, a torment of tossing and turning where genuine rest was an alien concept. Every creak, every shudder, seemed to amplify my spiraling anxiety. Emma, sensing the unspoken tension, woke twice from unsettling dreams, her small cries piercing the oppressive silence. I held her close, a fragile warmth against my chest, my palm gently stroking her own bald head, a stark reminder of her battle. "Everything will be okay," I whispered into her soft hair. A desperate incantation meant more for myself than for her. By the time the first faint blush of dawn stained the horizon, I was utterly spent, physically drained yet strangely wired, my nerves thrumming with an electric current of apprehension. Precisely at 7 a.m., as if cued by some unseen conductor, the doorbell chimed. Linda stood on my porch, her face a stark canvas of pale, drawn whirring, her grip almost painfully tight around a bulging manila folder, an ominous harbinger of what lay within. With a forced cheerfulness I didn't feel, I quickly settled Emma in front of the TV, her favorite cartoons a colorful distraction, a bowl of sugary cereal a small comfort, before leading Linda, who moved with a grim, purposeful stride, into the kitchen. Without a word, she began to spread the contents of the folder across my pristine kitchen table, printed screenshots. Every single text Damon had ever sent me, laid bare in excruciating detail. But the chilling display didn't end there. She had also meticulously printed out every one of his social media posts from the past 12 hours. My stomach plummeted, a cold, heavy stone sinking into the pit of my being as my eyes darted across the damning evidence. There were photos, smiling and deceptively innocent, from the wedding, overlaid with venomous captions. He claimed I had ruthlessly manipulated him, an unseen puppet master pulling his strings, and had selfishly, wantonly ruined his cousin's special day for attention. The audacity, the sheer gall, was breathtaking. One particularly vile post screamed about my supposed mental instability, accusing me of cynically using Emma's cancer for sympathy, twisting her fragile vulnerability into a weapon against him. Another, even more cruelly, suggested I was an unfit mother, a negligent parent who prioritized making scenes theatrical public displays over the genuine, urgent care of my sick child. My hands, despite my efforts to steady them, trembled violently as I absorbed each cruel, calculated lie. And the comments were a descent into an even darker abyss. His so-called friends rallied around him like a pack of rabid wolves, spewing epithets and insults so grotesque I couldn't even fully process their meaning, their viciousness. Some, in a horrifying leap of logic and depravity, even dared to suggest he should fight for custody of Emma, a child who was not, had never been, his biological daughter. The sheer injustice of it all threatened to consume me. But then Linda's voice, sharp and decisive, pierced through the swirling fog of my despair, a lifeline in the chaotic tempest. Her words, though delivered with a tremor of profound regret, were clear as crystal, immutable. She declared, with the unwavering authority of a mother betrayed, that she was cutting Damon off completely, irrevocably. No more lavish allowances, no more financial safety nets, no more familial support. And a final, chilling blow. She was removing him from her will, effective immediately, severing the last ties of inheritance. She apologized, her voice thick with self-reproach, over and over, a litany of sorrow and shame. I failed as a mother, she confessed, her eyes heavy with tears. To raise such a cruel, heartless son, she promised, her gaze steady and resolute. To testify about his abhorrent behavior if I ever needed her, offering her unwavering support as a shield against his malice. After she finally left, the silence in the kitchen felt heavier than before, suffocating. I remained seated at the table, a lone figure in a battlefield of printed lies, my eyes fixed on the scattered screenshots, each one a fresh stab of pain. Emma, sensing the shift in the atmosphere, wandered in, her small voice, imbued with an innocent curiosity, breaking the spell. "Mommy, why do you look sad?" she asked, her big eyes reflecting my own turmoil. I forced a smile, a brittle, strained mask, and suggested, with a lightness I didn't feel, that we make pancakes together, a small anchor of normalcy in the swirling chaos. As we mixed the batter, the simple, rhythmic motions bombed to my frayed nerves. She chattered happily about her dreams, her voice a sweet, pure melody. I clung to her words, focusing on their innocent rhythm, desperate to drown out the crushing, suffocating weight that pressed down on my chest, threatening to steal my breath. Suddenly, my phone began to buzz non-stop, a relentless, insistent tremor against the quiet. The Salon group chat was, to put it mildly, exploding. Someone, with commendable speed and foresight, had discovered Damon's vile posts and, before he could execute a cowardly retreat, had screenshotted everything, capturing his malice for posterity. The women, my fierce, loyal tribe, were not merely angry. They were incandescent with fury, a collective roar of righteous indignation. Maria, ever the pragmatic warrior, immediately texted that she was calling her lawyer cousin, a formidable ally in any battle. And true to her word, within the hour, Rachel Morrison, a name I barely recognized, called me. Maria's cousin, it turned out, specialized in harassment cases, a stroke of profound luck, and, understanding the urgency and gravity of my situation, offered a free, no-obligation consultation. She meticulously explained Ohio's complex harassment laws, laying out the legal landscape with clarity and precision. Her primary advice was crystal clear. Begin documenting everything, every single incident, every nasty message, every public accusation. She assured me, her voice calm and authoritative, that with proper documentation, we could build a strong cease and desist case and potentially pursue serious defamation charges. A glimmer of hope, however faint, flickered in the darkness. The next few days blurred into an indistinguishable haze of anxiety and grim determination. I fought to maintain a semblance of normalcy for Emma, diligently taking her to her treatments, ensuring her routine remained as stable and predictable as possible. A small haven in the escalating tempest. But Damon's campaign, far from abating, was growing bolder, more sinister, escalating with alarming speed. The final straw came when he brazenly showed up at Emma's school during pickup time, an audacious invasion of her safe space. I spotted him from across the bustling parking lot, a figure of malevolent energy, talking animatedly, his gestures expansive, to a group of unsuspecting parents. By the time I reached them, my heart pounding with a frantic rhythm, he had already begun to spread his poison, his insidious whispers slithering into their ears. He was telling them, with a faint concern that curdled my blood, that I was unstable and, outrageously, shouldn't have custody of Emma. The immediate impact was devastating. I watched, numb with horror, as one mother, her face etched with fear, instinctively grabbed her child's hand and hurried away from me, as if I were some contagion, some dangerous threat. Just then, like an avenging angel, the principal appeared, her expression a mask of stern concern, having been alerted by other concerned parents about Damon's increasingly aggressive, disruptive behavior. Security personnel, swift and efficient, escorted him off the property, his retreating figure still shouting about his rights, his entitlement ringing hollow in the hushed aftermath. The principal, her voice imbued with a calming authority, assured me they would immediately increase security measures and, crucially, add him to the school's no-access list, effectively barring him from ever setting foot on school grounds again. That very evening, the phone rang, its abrupt sound shattering the fragile peace. The caller ID flashed Child Protective Services. My blood ran cold, a glacial torrent through my veins. Someone, of course, had filed an anonymous complaint, a chilling accusation of medical neglect and emotional abuse. My heart, a panicked bird trapped in its cage, simply stopped. The social worker, her voice professional but firm, scheduled a home visit for the very next morning. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, exactly who had orchestrated this latest, most devastating attack. I tucked Emma into bed that night, the lump in my throat almost choking me, fighting back a torrent of tears. Did I do something wrong at school, Mommy? She whispered, her innocent query a fresh wound in my soul. She had noticed the other children, their curious stares, their hushed, conspiratorial whispers. I held her close, a desperate embrace, promising, once again, that everything would be okay, even as panic, the shock-clogged beast, began to tear at my chest. The CPS social worker arrived precisely on time, her punctuality an unsettling reminder of the official nature of her visit. I had spent the entire night, fueled by a potent cocktail of fear and adrenaline, meticulously organizing every single medical record, every treatment note, every prescription receipt, a towering testament to my diligent care. The apartment, scrubbed to an immaculate shine, was spotless, an outward reflection of the control I desperately yearned for. Emma, Blesley, was having a cheerful morning, a bright, innocent beacon in the oppressive atmosphere. She eagerly showed the social worker her colorful artwork, a vibrant display of childish imagination, and recounted details of her treatments with an artless charm. The social worker, her demeanor initially reserved, reviewed everything with meticulous care, her eyes scanning each document with professional scrutiny. Then, right there in my living room, she made a call to Dr. Nguyen, Emma's specialist, Dr. Nguyen's glowing recommendation, her heartfelt praise for my unwavering dedication to Emma's treatment, seemed to shift something, a subtle, almost imperceptible softening in the social worker's previously neutral expression. But then, she revealed something that made my blood run even colder, a new layer of calculated malice. The reports we're receiving, she began, her gaze direct and piercing, contained some rather curious details. For instance, one mentioned a boyfriend's text timing feeling oddly convenient right as she's getting her head shaved. Another painted a picture of this salon suddenly turning into command central, with everyone having the perfect connection for revenge makeovers. She paused, a small, knowing smirk playing on her lips. This, you see, is the third false report about you this week alone. All submitted from different phone numbers, yet remarkably, all with identical wording. Almost as if copied and pasted, her implication was clear. These weren't genuine concerns. They were a coordinated, fabricated campaign. She strongly suggested I file a police report for harassment immediately, emphasizing that CPS would meticulously document this pattern of false reporting in their system. A critical piece of evidence should this escalate further. The moment she left, the door clicking shut behind her, I drove straight to the police station, my resolve hardening with every mile. Detective James Carter, a man with shrewd eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, took my report seriously. Especially after reviewing the CPS documentation, a powerful official endorsement of my claims, and the damning wedding screenshots. He noted, with a chilling precision, that Damon's behavior fit escalating harassment patterns and, without hesitation, opened an official investigation, marking a crucial turning point in this relentless ordeal. But Damon, it seemed, was far from finished. His malice, like a persistent virus, mutated and evolved. He created a fake Facebook profile, insidiously posing as a concerned neighbor, and began relentlessly spreading his venomous lies about my parenting in local community groups, poisoning the well of neighborhood trust. It was a cowardly, underhanded tactic, designed to erode my reputation from within the very fabric of my community. Thankfully, several quick-thinking salon clients, familiar with his distinctive, self-aggrandizing writing style, recognized his insidious handiwork and swiftly reported the profile. But not before several school parents, tragically, had already seen his lies, their innocent eyes exposed to his fabricated narrative, and the damage, like a slow-acting poison, had already begun to spread. The insidious digital posts that had become a relentless assault. Rachel, ever the steadfast ally, promptly filed a cease and desist order, simultaneously initiating the meticulous process of building a comprehensive defamation case. She had, with an air of grim foresight, warned me that Damon's aggression would almost certainly escalate once he was formally served, urging me to subtly vary my daily routines and, crucially, to install discreet security cameras around our home. A chilling premonition that would soon prove tragically accurate. That particular night descended upon us like a suffocating shroud, heavier than most. Emma had endured another brutal, soul-searing chemotherapy session, leaving her utterly depleted and spending hours wretchedly vomiting. I knelt beside her, cradling her small, frail body, a silent tableau of shared anguish. Her cries were born of raw, physical pain, each spasm of fresh agony. Mine, however, stemmed from the overwhelming, crushing weight of everything: the fear, the exhaustion, the relentless threats. Just then, my phone vibrated with an intrusive buzz, signaling yet another menacing message from Damon. But I couldn't bring myself to even glance at it. The emotional wellspring within me had simply run dry. The very next morning, a fresh wave of dread washed over me as I stepped outside. There, stark against the morning dew, lay my car, its tires brutally slashed, all four of them, deflating not just the rubber, but also my last shred of hope. And in a twist that felt almost deliberately cruel, the security footage from our newly installed cameras was, by some sinister coincidence, conveniently corrupted. Precisely during the time of the vandalism. Utterly immobilized and facing an emergency, I had no choice but to call an Uber to rush Emma to her vital treatment, bleeding money I absolutely did not have. Maria, with her incredible empathy, somehow caught wind of our predicament and, without a word to me, deftly organized a GoFund campaign, leveraging the extensive network of clients and contacts within the salon. Within mere hours, a tidal wave of generosity had swelled the fund, raising enough not just for new tires and proper, robust security cameras, but also covering a full month's worth of groceries. When I finally saw that astounding number, a profound, gut-wrenching sob tore through me, echoing in the sterile quiet of the hospital waiting room. It was a release of pressure I hadn't realized I was holding. Damon was finally served with the cease and desist order at his workplace, a small victory that felt fleeting. His immediate response was a brazen, contemptuous violation. 47 text messages were barraging my phone in the span of a single hour. They began insidiously with hollow, fake apologies, quickly spiraling, however, into a torrent of increasingly venomous threats. The very last one, a chilling punctuation mark to his fury, simply read, "You'll regret this, Detective Carter." After reviewing the sheer volume and escalating nature of the text, wasted no time upgrading the case to felony harassment. He advised me, with a grave urgency, to file for a restraining order immediately and, sensing the palpable danger, arranged for a police escort to ensure my safe return home. That evening, as Maria's husband diligently helped me install the new, high-definition security cameras, Emma sat nearby, blissfully unaware of the true peril shadowing us. Drawing vibrant pictures of her brave mommy, how I wished I could shield her from the grim reality of it all. The restraining order hearing arrived with alarming speed. Damon, displaying an unsettling sense of entitlement, appeared flanked by an exorbitantly expensive lawyer whose sole purpose was to discredit me, attempting to paint me as nothing more than a hysterical, vindictive woman. But then, the atmosphere in the courtroom shifted dramatically as Linda, Damon's own mother, walked in. Her testimony, delivered with a quiet, devastating resolve, laid bare her son's lifelong pattern of abuse, a chilling narrative that spanned decades. It was an undeniable, brutal indictment. The judge, clearly swayed by the irrefutable evidence and Linda's raw honesty, granted a comprehensive 2-year restraining order, explicitly extending its protective reach to Emma's school, all medical facilities we frequented, and, crucially, our home. Yet, even such a clear legal victory offered no true respite. Within mere hours of the restraining order being issued, my employer received an anonymous, poison-tipped missive, falsely accusing me of mental instability and substance abuse. Despite my impeccable, spotless record, HR, compelled by protocol, launched an immediate investigation and, without hesitation, placed me on unpaid leave pending its outcome. Rachel, ever vigilant, immediately dispatched a strongly worded letter to my employer, outlining the severe legal ramifications of defamation liability. The Salon Network, a formidable collective of empowered women mobilized like a highly trained army. Clients, many of whom held influential positions in HR and legal fields, made strategic, impactful phone calls. The investigation, commendably, was dropped within days, but the insidious damage to my professional reputation had already been inflicted, a stain not easily removed. Amidst all this relentless chaos, a brief, fragile moment of pure light pierced through the gloom. Emma, with her boundless curiosity, had discovered my vibrant collection of colorful headscarves, each one a whisper of joy. Her eyes alight, she declared, with the unfiltered honesty only a child possesses, that she wanted to be beautiful and brave like Mommy. In that instant, all the fear and legal battles faded. We indulged in an impromptu fashion show right there in the living room, twirling and laughing as we tried on different combinations and styles, transforming each scarf into a crown of defiance. For those precious, stolen minutes, the oppressive shadow of restraining orders and threats receded, replaced by the simple, healing sound of our shared laughter. But such reprieve, I knew, was always fleeting. Despite the clear dictates of the restraining order, Damon, with a chilling ingenuity, found new, perverse ways to torment us. He sent a lavish bouquet of flowers to Emma's hospital room during her chemotherapy session, accompanied by a card bearing the sickeningly sweet inscription, "Get well soon, sweetie." Uncle D's security footage later confirmed he had meticulously used a third-party delivery service, a calculated move to circumvent the physical distance requirement of the order. Detective Carter meticulously documented the violation, but his hands were tied. He warned me it was technically a legal gray area, as Damon himself hadn't physically breached the mandated distance. The frustration was immense, a palpable barrier to true justice. His campaign of harassment then broadened its cruel scope. He began contacting my extended family members, sowing seeds of discord and doubt. My sister called me, utterly confused and deeply concerned, after receiving bizarre messages fabricating tales of my supposed mental breakdown. He had spun elaborate, malicious narratives, suggesting to relatives that they should intervene and even seek custody of Emma, all for her own safety. I spent countless, draining hours on the phone, meticulously sending medical records and legal documents, desperately trying to prove his insidious lies. While most relatives, thankfully, stood by me, I could distinctly hear the faint, unsettling whisper of doubt creeping into some voices, a testament to his manipulative prowess. The harassment took an even darker, more terrifying turn when Dr. Nguyen, Emma's pediatrician, discreetly pulled me aside during her next appointment. Someone, chillingly claiming to be my husband, had called the office, attempting to pry loose Emma's sensitive medical information and her detailed treatment schedule. The vigilant office staff, trained for such breaches, had immediately flagged the suspicious call and steadfastly refused to provide any details. But the sheer audacity of the attempt left me profoundly unsettled, a cold knot of fear tightening in my stomach. We immediately implemented stringent new security protocols. A photo ID and a specific password were now mandatory for any information requests regarding Emma's health. Just 3 days later, the ordinary act of returning home from grocery shopping became an instant nightmare. My apartment door stood slightly ajar, a silent, gaping maw of unease. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of terror, as I instinctively pushed Emma behind me and frantically dialed 911. The police, upon arrival, thoroughly searched the apartment. Nothing had been stolen, no valuables missing, but a chilling, deeply personal violation had occurred. Small, intimate things had been subtly disturbed. Emma's beloved stuffed animals, usually nestled haphazardly, were now meticulously rearranged on her bed. Family photos, typically facing forward, had been deliberately turned backward on the shelves. Even my pillow, a symbol of rest, lay on the wrong side of the bed. Someone had been in our sanctuary, touching our most personal possessions, desecrating our safe space. The police, however, found no signs of forced entry, deepening the mystery and the dread. The landlord later revealed a sinister detail. Someone claiming to be my brother had called, innocently inquiring about spare key policies and maintenance schedules. Detective Carter, recognizing the escalating threat, immediately increased patrol presence in our neighborhood and advised me, with urgent gravity, to change all the locks without delay. That night, sleep was an impossible luxury. I lay on Emma's bedroom floor, a heavy baseball bat clutched beside me, my senses hyper-alert, jumping at every faint creak of the old building, every shifting shadow. Emma woke once, her small voice whimpering from a nightmare, and I soothed her back to sleep, all while fiercely battling my own spiraling terror, trying to project a calm I didn't feel. The Salon network, proving their unwavering solidarity, further amplified their support. They meticulously created a detailed protection schedule, ensuring that someone was always available to accompany me to appointments or even stay overnight, providing a vital human shield. Maria's teenage daughter, with a maturity beyond her years, began picking Emma up from school, watching over her until I returned home from work. The sheer volume of kindness overwhelmed me, often bringing tears to my eyes, but I gratefully, humbly accepted every single offer of help. Then came yet another devastating financial blow. My credit card was declined at the pharmacy, right there at the counter, as I tried to purchase Emma's essential anti-nausea medication. The public humiliation was a bitter sting, compounded by the immediate threat to Emma's critical care. A frantic call to the bank unveiled the shocking truth. Someone had opened 3 new credit cards in my name and, with astonishing speed, had maxed them all out within days. The fraudulent purchases, a trail of destruction, were traced to various electronic stores and online retailers, all linked to IP addresses originating from coffee shops suspiciously close to Damon's workplace. Rachel, ever resourceful, immediately connected me with a financial crime specialist who began the arduous, tedious process of disputing the fraudulent accounts and, even more daunting, attempting to rebuild my utterly shattered credit score. This brazen act of identity theft, undeniably linked to Damon, layered another grave charge onto the already mounting criminal case against him. The evidence against him was growing brick by damning brick. Yet, the insidious rot of his actions continued to burrow deeper, metastasizing into every corner of my existence. The true scale of Damon's perfidy became terrifyingly clear one afternoon when Linda, my dear friend, called me, her voice ragged and choked with sobs. Through her heartbroken gasps, she revealed a horrifying discovery. Damon had systematically, meticulously, been draining her bank accounts. He exploited the very trust they once shared, leveraging the access codes and login information he'd retained from his time living under her roof. Can you imagine the gut-wrenching betrayal? A staggering sum over $30,000 had simply vanished, meticulously siphoned away through a labyrinth of cash withdrawals and untraceable transfers, leaving her financially devastated and emotionally raw. Without hesitation, a steely resolve hardening her grief, Linda immediately pressed charges. She wasted no time furnishing Detective Carter with an irrefutable paper trail, detailed bank records that laid bare Damon's calculated pattern of theft, transaction by nefarious transaction. Her immediate, unwavering cooperation didn't just help. It significantly bolstered the prosecution's burgeoning case, transforming it from a mere accusation into a formidable legal challenge. A mere week later, Detective Carter's voice, crisp and professional over the phone, delivered news that felt like a momentary reprieve from the relentless storm. They had amassed more than enough damning evidence to arrest Damon on a litany of serious charges. This wasn't just about the money. The charges included identity theft, the relentless harassment he'd subjected us to, and a blatant violation of the restraining order that was supposed to protect us. That afternoon, my gaze was fixed through the protective pane of my living room window as police cruisers, their lights silently flashing, converged on Damon's workplace. The scene, almost cinematic in its suddenness, marked a turning point. Later, his mugshot, plastered across online news feeds, showed a chilling image, dead, vacant eyes staring out, accompanied by a disturbing, almost triumphant smirk that seemed to mock the very concept of remorse. It sent a shiver of pure revulsion down my spine, making my skin crawl. Bail was swiftly set at a hefty $50,000, a figure that offered a fleeting sense of security, a hope that he would remain behind bars, at least for a while. To my utter horror, that fragile hope shattered within hours. The notification that Damon had made bail arrived, a cruel twist of fate, just as Emma and I sat in the sterile waiting room of the hospital for her next round of cancer treatment. The news landed like a physical blow immediately after her appointment. I pulled Emma out of school, our carefully constructed routine suddenly abandoned. There was no going home, no sense of safety there. Instead, we fled to Maria's family, seeking refuge. Her bustling home, filled with the joyful chaos of her own children, became our temporary sanctuary. Emma, oblivious to the terrifying reality that had chased us there, delighted in playing with Maria's kids, believing it was just a special, spontaneous sleepover. My heart ached at her innocence, shielding her from the sinister undercurrent of our sudden departure. The bewildering source of Damon's swift bail money, that seemingly impossible sum, finally came to light a few days later, painting an even more sinister picture of his manipulative prowess. He had, with predatory precision, begun dating an elderly woman, weaving an elaborate tapestry of lies for her. He convinced her, with sickening ease, that I was his abusive ex, a cruel villain unfairly withholding his precious daughter from him. The woman, caught in the snare of his masterful deception, swallowed every lie whole. Believing she was helping a desperate father, she tragically gave him her entire life savings to fight for custody of what she genuinely thought was his biological child. My heart broke, not just for myself, but for this innocent, vulnerable woman, so cruelly exploited by his elaborate, heartless deceptions. How could one person wield such destructive power over another's empathy? The situation, already fraught with tension, escalated to a truly terrifying degree when Emma's school called. A woman claiming to be Emma's aunt had brazenly attempted to pick her up early, bypassing all protocols. Fortunately, the school's vigilant security team had detained her, quickly revealing her true identity, Damon's new girlfriend. Under questioning, the poor woman broke down, tears streaming, her genuine confusion heartbreaking. She truly, deeply believed she was rescuing Emma from what Damon had convinced her was medical abuse. The sheer audacity of his lies, the depth of his manipulation, was staggering. Detective Carter, recognizing the severity of the act, charged her with attempted kidnapping. It was only then, faced with the stark reality of legal consequences, that she finally understood the horrifying truth about Damon's elaborate fabrications. The scales fell from her eyes, leaving her reeling from the betrayal. In a move that perfectly encapsulated his twisted sense of victimhood, Damon's immediate response was to post a sprawling, self-pitying video online. In it, he vehemently claimed to be the innocent target of a vast conspiracy orchestrated by me and his own mother, all designed, he alleged, to steal his inheritance. The video, a masterclass in gaslighting and fabrication, disturbingly went viral within certain online communities, attracting a torrent of vitriolic harassment from strangers who had swallowed his false narrative hook, line, and sinker. My phone became a conduit for fear, filling with threatening messages from people I'd never met. All of them absolutely convinced I was the cold-hearted villain in Damon's meticulously fabricated narrative. Rachel, ever the steadfast ally, worked tirelessly with Detective Carter, meticulously tracing the most serious and credible threats while simultaneously strengthening our ongoing case against him. We soon uncovered disturbing patterns in the deluge of harassment, all pointing back to Damon himself, orchestrating much of it from behind the scenes, a puppet master of digital terror. The investigation, fueled by this new evidence of his pervasive manipulation, expanded even further, revealing layers of his insidious schemes. A particularly poignant development occurred when one of Damon's previous girlfriends, seeing the viral video and recognizing his insidious tactics, reached out to us. She bravely shared documentation of nearly identical harassment she had endured years earlier, including chilling threats that matched, word for word, the terrifying messages I was now receiving. Out of paralyzing fear, she had never pressed charges at the time, preferring to suffer in silence. But now, seeing his pattern repeat and witnessing his escalating depravity, she was willing to testify, to stand against him and expose his decades-long pattern of behavior. Her powerful evidence clearly demonstrated that this wasn't his first campaign of terror, nor his first dance with psychological warfare against an ex-partner. It seemed Damon could go from zero to full-blown identity theft faster than a credit card could decline at the pharmacy. And really, someone ought to tell him, harassment isn't supposed to be a full-time job with overtime pay, is it? The elderly woman Damon had so cruelly scammed, after finally learning the devastating truth about his elaborate deceptions, tragically attempted suicide. Her family, thankfully, found her in time, and she survived, but the emotional scars were deep and profound. Driven by a righteous fury, her family joined the burgeoning criminal case against him, adding grave elder abuse charges to his already growing, monstrous list of crimes. The prosecutor, now armed with an even broader scope of Damon's depravity, began building a truly comprehensive case, meticulously demonstrating his horrifying pattern of harassment, calculated fraud, and insidious manipulation that spanned not just months, but years. Linda, still reeling from her own betrayal, took a proactive step, hiring a private investigator who, with unnerving efficiency, uncovered even more disturbing details about Damon's past. Two other ex-girlfriends, encouraged by the courage of the first, came forward, each sharing strikingly similar stories of escalating harassment that had plagued them long after their relationships with Damon had ended. One, her voice trembling with residual fear, revealed a truly horrific incident. Damon had brutally killed her beloved cat when she had tried to leave him. A monstrous act she had been too terrified to report at the time. The pattern, now laid bare, was not merely clear. It was chilling, painting a portrait of a deeply disturbed and dangerous individual. The prosecution, seeing the overwhelming weight of evidence, meticulously built a strong, irrefutable case, showcasing Damon's systematic and relentless campaign of terror. His assets, recognizing the financial motivations behind much of his maliciousness, were swiftly frozen pending investigation, effectively cutting off his resources for any further harassment or attempts at escape. But even from the confines of his jail cell, Damon, a creature of relentless malice, found insidious ways to continue his torment. During a supervised jail call, a moment meant to be a controlled interaction, Damon made a fatal error, a miscalculation that ultimately sealed his grim fate. He brazenly told another inmate's visitor to handle me, to silence me permanently, completely unaware that this visitor was, in fact, an undercover officer orchestrating a meticulously planned sting operation. The revelation sent shockwaves through the legal system. Immediately, chilling new charges of solicitation of murder were added to his already extensive case. The sheer scope and interstate nature of some of his earlier crimes, particularly the identity theft and online harassment that crossed state lines, soon brought the formidable resources of the FBI into the investigation. For Emma and me, our lives were uprooted once more as we were swiftly moved to a secure, undisclosed location, a sanctuary shielded from his malevolent reach. Emma, in her beautiful innocence, believed we were on a special, secret vacation, receiving treatment at a brand new, exciting hospital. I tried desperately to maintain a facade of normalcy for her, to keep her world bright and untroubled, but the immense, crushing stress of it all was taking its toll on me. One night, the dam finally broke. I completely broke down in the safe house bathroom, sobbing silently into a towel, muffling every agonizing sound so Emma, sleeping peacefully nearby, wouldn't hear the shattering of my composure. I texted Maria, a raw, desperate plea, confessing that I didn't know how much more I could possibly endure. Her response was immediate, a lifeline thrown across the digital abyss. She assured me, with unwavering certainty, that the entire Salon network, a community of strong, supportive women, was praying for us, and that they would absolutely not let us face this terrifying ordeal alone. The collective courage of the other ex-girlfriends, their voices united, proved to be a pivotal moment. They all agreed to testify, their combined testimonies painting a horrifying, decade-long pattern of Damon's escalating violence and psychological torment. Their accounts meticulously painted a chilling picture of a dangerous, predatory individual who had, over years, perfected his insidious methods of control and terror. Armed with such overwhelming, consistent evidence, the prosecutor felt profoundly confident that they could secure a lengthy, deserved sentence for him. Meanwhile, Damon's mental state, already teetering on the edge, deteriorated significantly within the harsh confines of jail. He attempted suicide, a desperate act, but was discovered in time and immediately placed on suicide watch, his movements carefully monitored. His lawyer, grasping at straws, argued that his client was mentally incompetent to stand trial, a desperate maneuver that forced a mandatory psychological evaluation. 3 separate, independent psychologists rigorously evaluated him, their findings consistent and unanimous. All 3 concluded that he was indeed competent to stand trial, fully aware of his actions, but that he suffered from a severe narcissistic personality disorder. Laced with disturbing antisocial features, the trial, despite his lawyer's attempts to delay, would proceed. During a pre-trial hearing, a crucial moment for legal proceedings, Damon, seeing me in the courtroom, utterly lost control. The fragile facade of composure he'd maintained shattered completely. With a primal scream, accusing me of destroying his life, he lunged violently across the defense table, his eyes wild with unfettered rage. Before he could reach me, Biff, ever vigilant, tackled him with a speed that belied his stature, bringing Damon crashing to the floor. Emma, watching the horrifying scene unfold on closed-circuit TV from a secure, separate room, saw it all. The judge, visibly shaken by the outburst, immediately ordered him to appear in full restraints for all future proceedings, a stark symbol of his dangerous volatility. His uncontrolled outburst, far from hindering our case, only served to strengthen it, providing a visceral demonstration of the very psychological instability and aggression we had been enduring. Through all this relentless turmoil, this constant shadow of fear, Emma, my brave little girl, continued her arduous cancer treatment. With remarkable resilience, she finished her last round of chemotherapy on a That particular day was drenched in emotion, a tapestry woven with threads of profound relief, and an underlying current of pervasive fear. I remember holding her, my trembling hands clasped around her tiny ones, as she reached out to ring the celebratory bell in the hospital hallway. The sharp, clear chime echoed through the ward, a poignant symbol of her cancer treatment's completion, and at that very moment, tears streamed down both our faces, tears of overwhelming gratitude. Of a burden momentarily lifted, Around us, other patients and their families, their own faces etched with their private battles, erupted in heartfelt cheers, a spontaneous symphony of hope. They knew nothing, of course, of the even darker, more insidious war we were still silently waging, the one that lingered like a shadow even as Emma took this monumental step. For a fleeting instant, a fragile, dangerous hope bloomed within me, a whispered prayer that perhaps, just perhaps, both our nightmares, the visible and the unseen, might finally be drawing to a close. But Damon, in his relentless cruelty, was far from finished. His malevolent reach extended even from behind bars. A key witness, whose testimony was crucial to our case, suddenly received chilling death threats, insidious messages that spoke of violence and retribution. Understandably terror-stricken, she initially recoiled, refusing to step into the courtroom. Detective Carter, a steadfast beacon in our storm, had to personally intervene, providing round-the-clock protection, a testament to the real and immediate danger Damon posed. These relentless intimidation tactics, a constant drip of psychological warfare, were relentlessly wearing everyone down, fraying nerves and eroding resolve. To fortify me for the grueling ordeal of trial testimony, Rachel, my fierce advocate, brought in a dedicated victim's rights advocate. Together, we subjected ourselves to hours of intense preparation, meticulously dissecting every minute detail of my experience, anticipating every possible angle. Every insidious attempt the defense might employ to discredit me, to twist my truth into a calculated lie. Then, in a chilling demonstration of his pervasive influence, Damon's new girlfriend that the elderly woman he had previously scammed. But another unfortunate soul he had skillfully manipulated with a barrage of manufactured affection from gel through meticulously crafted letters somehow obtained our highly confidential safe house address. The sheer audacity of it, the cold-blooded breach of our sanctuary, sent a visceral shiver down my spine. With terrifying speed, she brazenly posted it online, a digital beacon illuminating our hidden vulnerability. The immediate consequence was a frantic, terrifying scramble. We had no choice but to relocate instantaneously, tearing Emma away from the nascent comfort of her recovery routine, further disrupting a life already fractured by illness and fear. The FBI, through a painstaking forensic investigation, eventually traced the leak back to a seemingly innocuous court clerk, yet another person Damon had ensnared in his web of deceit, charming her with elaborate, fabricated love letters. She was swiftly arrested, but the irreparable damage, like a poisoned arrow, had already found its mark. The relentless, crushing stress of her son's depraved actions proved to be too much for Linda's already fragile health. Her body, ravaged by worry and heartbreak, simply couldn't withstand the emotional onslaught. She suffered a massive heart attack and was rushed to the emergency room, the sirens will a grim echo of the chaos Damon had wrought. From her hospital bed, her voice frail but resolute, she recorded a powerful video testimony, a heartbreaking chronicle of Damon's lifelong, unyielding pattern of manipulation and abuse. Her final, courageous wish was to ensure her truth would be heard, to bear witness against her son, even if her failing body would prevent her from being physically present in court. A mere 2 weeks later, the complications of her ordeal claimed her. Her passing was a profound loss, yet her final act, born of a mother's devastating love and a desperate yearning for justice, was to secure the chance for peace and safety for both Emma and me. I remember the profound weight of that conversation, the delicate dance of hope and harsh reality. I had to gently, painstakingly explain to Emma, her eyes wide with a mixture of apprehension and innocent trust, that the bad man who had haunted our lives, the monster who had instilled such deep fear, would very soon be utterly powerless to hurt us anymore. She looked up at me, her small voice barely a whisper. "Do you promise, Mama?" My heart ached with the intensity of her question. "Yes, my love, I promise," I said, the words of fervent prayer whispered to the universe, desperately hoping, praying with every fiber of my being, that I was right. As the formidable trial date loomed closer, its shadow stretching long and dark before us, I consciously steeled myself, hardening my resolve for the grueling emotional battle that lay ahead. 8 long, torturous months had unspooled since that pivotal day in the salon, the day I had defiantly shaved my head, a symbolic act of solidarity and resilience. 8 months steeped in terror, a constant, gnawing dread that had been our unwelcome companion. But those same 8 months, through the crucible of an imaginable hardship, had also been a profound journey of discovery, revealing the astonishing depth of strength of an unbreakable bond that Emma and I could forge together. The trial commenced with the stark drama of opening statements, each side painting a drastically different portrait of Damon. The prosecution, with grim precision, depicted him as a cunning, dangerous predator, a master manipulator who reveled in psychological torment. The defense, in stark and almost ludicrous contrast, attempted to humanize him, portraying him as a sympathetic figure, a man unjustly pushed too far by a vindictive ex of thinly veiled attack on my character. I watched him then, seated at the defense table, his lips curling into that familiar, unsettling smirk as his lawyer spun these elaborate fictions. It was the same chilling expression, utterly devoid of remorse, that had been captured in his mugshot, a snapshot of pure, unadulterated arrogance. But this time, unlike those early days of fear, I was ready. I felt an unshakable resolve. The gallery behind me was a sea of familiar faces, my salon sisters, their unwavering presence a palpable force, their silent support a deep well of strength from which I drew courage. Emma's therapist, her voice imbued with professional authority and profound compassion, was slated to testify about the devastating, multi-layered trauma inflicted upon a child already battling the ravages of cancer. A cruel double blow. For their own protection, the previous victims of Damon's relentless cruelty would share their harrowing stories via secure video link, their voices echoing the chilling consistency of his patterns. The sheer volume and irrefutable nature of the evidence against him were, quite simply, overwhelming. As I braced myself, preparing to ascend to the witness stand and confront my tormentor, my mind drifted, replaying the seismic shifts that had transformed my life. What had begun as a simple, instinctual act of boundless love for my daughter, a gesture of solidarity in her fight against illness, had inexorably led me down a dark and winding path, exposing me to a kind of pure, unadulterated evil I had never even conceived of. But amidst that darkness, this journey had also, paradoxically, illuminated the incredible, almost mystical power of women supporting women, of disparate communities coming together in a unified front, of the slow, but ultimately inevitable triumph of justice. Tomorrow, a new dawn would break, and with it, my moment to speak my truth. Tonight, I held my brave, beautiful daughter close, her small body a comforting weight in my arms, and promised her, with every fiber of my being, that very soon, we would truly, unequivocally be free. The next morning arrived with a solemn, almost heavy quietude. I took the stand, the weight of the courtroom pressing down on me, yet I felt a surprising calm. For 6 grueling, emotionally draining hours, I meticulously recounted every single threat, every brazen violation, every terrifying moment of dread that Damon had so ruthlessly inflicted upon us. His lawyer, a master of deflection, attempted to paint me as a vindictive, emotionally unstable woman, a scorned ex-lover consumed by baseless revenge. But I remained steadfastly calm, my voice steady, methodically presenting the irrefutable evidence, allowing the facts to speak for themselves. The prosecutor, with expert precision, guided me through the chilling timeline of his escalating harassment, from the initial unsettling incidents at the wedding, to the brazen identity theft that stole our financial security, culminating in the terrifying attempted kidnapping at Emma's very school. All the while, Damon sat there, an orange jumpsuit stark against the somber courtroom, his wrists and ankles bound by restraints, his face a grotesque mask of rage, contorting with barely suppressed fury as my words painted the stark reality of his crimes. Then, as I described Emma's terrifying nightmares, her heartbreaking regression to behavior she had long outgrown, he actually laughed. A harsh, derisive bark of laughter that sliced through the solemnity of the room. The jury, to their credit, noticed. Several jurors visibly flinched, recoiling from the sheer callousness of his reaction, a collective gasp echoing the horror. Emma's therapist then testified, her image projected onto a closed-circuit television screen, a deliberate measure taken to shield Emma from the traumatic experience of seeing her abuser in person. With unwavering professional clarity, the therapist painstakingly detailed the severe, multifaceted psychological impact Damon's actions had inflicted upon a child already bravely battling the physical and emotional toll of cancer. She explained, with heartbreaking precision, how Emma had developed profound separation anxiety, clinging to me, terrified to be alone, how she had begun refusing to sleep by herself. The once comforting darkness, now a terrifying void. Most poignantly, the therapist revealed that Emma had tragically regressed, starting to wet the bed again after years of being completely potty trained. A stark and painful testament to the deep-seated trauma. A palpable, heavy silence descended upon the courtroom as the therapist meticulously elucidated the profound, long-term effects of such egregious trauma on a sick, vulnerable child. Her words painting a stark picture of a stolen childhood. The previous victims, a collective chorus of suffering, followed, their testimonies delivered via secure video links, and necessary precaution for their ongoing safety. The first ex-girlfriend, a woman named Victoria, projected haunting photographs onto the courtroom screen, images of her beloved deceased cat, its lifeless body found in her apartment at Chilling. Unspoken threat after she had defiantly refused to reconcile with Damon. She had meticulously preserved the threatening letters he had sent her, physical evidence that matched his distinct handwriting and, even more chillingly, contained phrases identical to the sinister warnings he had sent me, a chilling confirmation of his established pattern of terror. The second victim, her voice trembling but resolute, detailed how Damon had systematically sabotaged her life, meticulously orchestrating her dismissal from 3 consecutive jobs by relentlessly calling in false, damaging complaints to her employers, a cruel and calculated assault on her livelihood. Detective Carter, a pillar of methodical justice, then presented the irrefutable physical evidence, a staggering mountain of proof that left no room for doubt. He displayed phone records, revealing hundreds upon hundreds of calls and texts, a relentless barrage of communication that brazenly defied the explicit terms of the restraining order. Bank records meticulously documented the identity theft, the cold, hard numbers illustrating the money stolen from Linda, his own mother. Security footage, gathered from various locations, played on screen, showing Damon's lurking figure, stalking our every move, a chilling phantom in our lives. Finally, the fake social media profiles, insidious tools of his manipulation, were traced back to his personal devices. The pattern was, to anyone with an ounce of reason, utterly undeniable. How could anyone possibly refute such a meticulously documented reign of terror? Then came the agonizing testimony of the elderly woman Damon had so cruelly scammed, her voice faint but clear, delivered from her hospital bed, where she was still recovering from the desperate depths of her suicide attempt. Her fragility, both physical and emotional, was heartbreakingly evident. She explained, with a raw vulnerability that pierced the courtroom's defenses, how Damon, with the cold precision of a predator, had convinced her that Emma was, in fact, his biological daughter, a child being callously denied life-saving cancer treatment by an abusive, heartless mother. Preying on her profound empathy and maternal instincts, he had extorted a staggering $40,000 from her retirement savings, money she had painstakingly saved for her golden years. All under the guise of saving Emma. Her testimony, a heartbreaking tale of profound betrayal and devastating financial ruin, left an indelible mark on everyone present. On the third day of the trial, in a moment of sheer, self-destructive arrogance, Damon took the stand, defiantly disregarding his own lawyer's frantic, whispered advice. His insatiable narcissism, a gaping void that demanded constant validation, simply would not permit him to remain silent, to be an observer in his own downfall. From the witness box, he launched into a breathtaking tirade of lies and fantastical accusations. He brazenly claimed that every single piece of evidence presented against him, was nothing more than a meticulously crafted conspiracy orchestrated between me and his mother. A grand scheme to maliciously steal his rightful inheritance. He insisted, with a chilling lack of self-awareness, that all the other victims were merely attention-seeking liars, fabricating their stories for fleeting notoriety. He even sank to an unimaginable low, suggesting with a twisted smirk that Emma wasn't truly sick, that I was, in fact, poisoning her, slowly debilitating my own daughter to garner sympathy and manipulate public opinion. The prosecutor's cross-examination was swift, merciless, and utterly brutal. She systematically dismantled his elaborate tapestry of lies, revealing the grotesque truth beneath. She played damning recordings of his jail calls, his voice chillingly clear, detailing his meticulously crafted plans to utterly destroy me. His laughter echoing hollowly as he recounted Emma's abject terror during the traumatizing swatting incident. She projected his own social media posts onto the screens, a stark display of his hypocrisy. Posts where he viciously labeled me mentally unstable, all while simultaneously, in the same breath, grotesquely professing his undying love for me. Then, with an almost surgical precision, she presented a comprehensive timeline, an irrefutable chronological account showing how his harassment, like a cancerous growth, had relentlessly escalated each and every time I had dared to try and protect myself, to carve out a sliver of peace for Emma and me. Finally, unable to contain the torrent of his own rage, Damon exploded on the stand. He screamed, his voice raw with unbridled fury, that I had ruined his life, that I deserved everything that had happened, and in a final, horrifying crescendo, that Emma would be better off without me. The chaotic scene that erupted forced the judge to immediately call a recess, as bailiffs, with practiced urgency, moved to physically restrain the convulsing, screaming man in the witness box. A stark and chilling tableau of his unraveling madness. His performance, a chilling spectacle of self-pity and veiled arrogance, had utterly eliminated any lingering possibility of jury sympathy. The defense's closing argument, a desperate gambit, had attempted to paint Damon not as a calculating criminal, but as a deeply disturbed individual. Mentally ill and driven to the brink of desperation by a manipulative ex-partner. They had meticulously suggested his actions were nothing more than anguished cries for help, a desperate plea misunderstood, rather than the calculated criminal behavior they truly were. Yet, the prosecutor's response was nothing short of devastating, a masterclass in dismantling a fabricated narrative. She didn't just speak, she laid bare the chilling truth with irrefutable evidence. Unfurling a meticulously constructed timeline, she showcased a horrifying panorama of Damon's calculated, deliberate actions, stretching back not just weeks, but months. Could anyone in that courtroom genuinely believe this was mere desperation? She systematically highlighted every insidious detail, how he had expertly manipulated multiple unsuspecting individuals, extracting not just their trust but also their hard-earned money, culminating in the horrific climax's brazen attempt to orchestrate my murder. This wasn't the erratic behavior of mental illness, she declared, her voice resonating with conviction. This, she emphasized, was pure, unadulterated evil. The weight of this truth settled heavily on the courtroom. The jury, tasked with discerning between calculated malice and a plea for help, deliberated for an agonizing 14 hours. For Emma and me sheltered in the safe house, those hours stretched into an eternity. We attempted a semblance of normalcy, a fragile illusion, engaging in quiet board games like Ticket to Ride and watching lighthearted movies. The plots blurred into an indistinguishable background hum. My hand, however, never strayed far from my phone, my thumb constantly refreshing the screen for any hint of an update. Maria, bless her heart, maintained a steady stream of encouraging texts, a lifeline tossed into our sea of anxiety, arriving almost hourly. Back in the city, the women of the Salon network, our steadfast protectors, held what Maria called a bear circle, a vigil of quiet support and shared anticipation. When the verdict finally arrived, the moment of truth striking with unexpected suddenness, I was in the kitchen, meticulously preparing Emma's favorite creamy tomato soup, the aroma filling the air with a fleeting sense of domesticity. Rachel's call, sharp and clear, cut through the quiet. Her voice, usually so vibrant, was thick with emotion as she delivered the news, guilty on all counts, each word a hammer blow, yet each resonated with profound justice. Stalking, harassment, identity theft, witness intimidation, attempted murder solicitation, elder abuse, and fraud. The litany of his depravity was long, a chilling testament to the depth of his malice. The revelation that his own mother had recorded that damning video from her hospital bed, her dying confession, still sends shivers down my spine. It makes me wonder, with a pang of dread, what she had known about him all along, what dark truths she'd harbored, only to reveal them at the very end. And then there was the audacious account of him manipulating a court clerk with saccharine love letters while already behind bars. A stark, terrifying reminder that his predatory instincts remained sharp, that he was still finding ways to weave his twisted web, even from the confines of a jail cell. The spoon I was holding clattered to the floor, the sound echoing in the sudden silence. My knees buckled beneath me, and I sank, utterly spent, to the cool tile, sobbing uncontrollably. They weren't tears of sorrow, but a torrential downpour of pure, unadulterated relief, washing away months of suffocating fear and uncertainty. 6 weeks later, we returned to the stark formality of the courtroom for sentencing. Linda's video testimony, her spectral presence filling the screen, played in court her frail, dying words. A ghostly condemnation of her son's abhorrent actions and a heartfelt apology to his countless victims. It was a raw, visceral moment that silenced the room. Other victims, their voices trembling but resolute, provided their own impact statements, each account adding another layer to the tapestry of Damon's cruelty. When it was my turn, I stood before the judge, my voice clear despite the tremor in my hands, and described the indescribable, how Damon had mercilessly weaponized my daughter's cancer, twisting the worst, most vulnerable time of our lives into an unimaginable nightmare. The judge, his face grim, delivered the sentence. Damon was condemned to 25 years to life, with no possibility of parole for a minimum of 15 years. He would serve his time in a maximum security facility, 3 states away, a geographical distance meant to be as psychologically reassuring as it was physically isolating. Permanent restraining orders, ironclad and lifelong, were issued, legally shielding Emma and me from his malevolent influence. As they led him away, Damon, ever the theatrical monster, screamed threats, his voice a venomous rasp that slowly, chillingly, faded down the corridor, leaving behind only the echo of his rage. The civil suit, a necessary step for financial recovery, settled with surprising swiftness after the criminal conviction. Damon's frozen assets, coupled with funds from Linda's estate, provided $500,000 in damages. This substantial sum, though it could never mend the deep fissures of trauma, promised a tangible future. It would meticulously cover Emma's ongoing medical bills, providing a critical safety net. It would also fund much-needed therapy for both of us, a crucial investment in our emotional healing, and establish a robust security fund for our future, alleviating a significant financial burden that had loomed so heavily. A month after the trial, a new chapter began. Emma and I moved into a sunlit new apartment, nestled within a secure building boasting multiple state-of-the-art safety features. The wonderful women of the Salon network, our extended family, rallied around us, helping us decorate and transform the sterile space into a true home, filled with warmth and personalized touches. Emma, with a blossoming sense of ownership, chose vibrant purple walls for her room, a cheerful contrast to the muted tones of our past. She proudly insisted on hanging the collection of drawings she'd made during our long, arduous time in hiding, a testament to her resilience and creativity. Emma returned to school, not just with her usual backpack, but with a comprehensive support plan meticulously designed to ease her transition. The principal, a kind and vigilant woman, personally ensured her safety, a reassuring presence in the bustling corridors. A dedicated counselor checked on her daily, providing a safe space for her anxieties and triumphs. At first, she was undeniably anxious, clinging to my hand at drop-off, her small fingers gripping mine like a lifeline. But gradually, day by day, she began to unfurl, regaining her lost confidence. Her teacher, with a warm smile, reported that Emma was making friends again, her laughter once more echoing in the playground. I, too, returned to work full-time. My employer, having finally understood the harrowing truth of her ordeal, was now fully supportive, offering empathy where there had once been doubt. Colleagues who had, perhaps understandably, harbored skepticism during the long, convoluted investigation offered sincere apologies, a genuine acknowledgement of my suffering. My supervisor, understanding the ongoing demands of our recovery, readily approved a flexible schedule, allowing me to manage Emma's vital medical appointments without added stress. Detective Carter, our steadfast guardian throughout this nightmare, paid one last visit, a final, reassuring touchpoint. He confirmed Damon was indeed secured in maximum security, his words a balm to my still frayed nerves. He further assured me that any audacious attempt by Damon to contact us, even from within those fortified walls, would swiftly result in additional, severe charges. And as a continuous layer of protection, the FBI maintained ongoing monitoring for any associates who might, in their misguided loyalty, attempt to carry out Damon's chilling threats. The good news continued to flow. Emma's follow-up scans, anxiously awaited, showed she remained gloriously cancer-free. Dr. One, observing us during a routine checkup, noted how much calmer we both seemed, a testament to the healing process. Emma had finally stopped asking about the bad man, her mind now joyfully occupied with typical 8-year-old concerns, like the excitedly anticipated details of her upcoming birthday party. To commemorate our hard-won victory and Emma's incredible recovery, Maria threw a joyous celebration at the salon. The women who had stood by us, a formidable network of strength and compassion from the very beginning, gathered to mark the triumphant end of our ordeal. Emma, radiant in one of her colorful headscarves, announced with youthful exuberance that she wanted to be a hairstylist, just like Maria, when she grew up, a future bright with possibilities. Inspired by the kindness we'd received, Rachel helped me establish a victims advocacy fund, seeding it with a portion of the settlement money. This fund would provide essential legal help to other women facing similar, terrifying situations, a legacy of hope born from our own suffering. The very first recipient was a young mother whose ex-partner was chillingly beginning to exhibit Damon's all too familiar patterns of controlling, manipulative behavior. 6 months after the trial, an ordinary afternoon transformed into a profound moment. I sat on a park bench, my gaze fixed on Emma as she played with her new friends, their laughter bubbling freely into the autumn air. She ran and spun, completely unburdened by fear, her soft, beautiful curls growing back, catching the sunlight. And I, for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, sat without constantly scanning the perimeter for threats, without instinctively checking over my shoulder. We weren't unscathed. The scars, both visible and invisible, would always be a part of our story. But we were, undeniably, healing. That night, as I tucked Emma into her cheerful purple room, she hugged me tight, her small arms encircling my neck. "I love my brave mommy," she whispered, her words a gentle balm to my soul. As she drifted off to sleep, I stood in her doorway, the soft glow of her nightlight painting shadows on the wall. In that quiet moment, I finally felt it, the crushing weight of the past year, the suffocating burden of fear and trauma, slowly, irrevocably lifting. We had survived. We had won. We were, at long last, truly free. It was time to close the book on this wild, harrowing ride. Thank you for letting me share these fragments of our journey. I hope they offer some understanding, some insight into the resilience of the human spirit.